Well, it's a beautiful day in Rapid City, and there's something different in the air this week because it's rivalry week in Western South Dakota. Hello, I'm Alex Dodd, and welcome to the first South Dakota Mines football show presented by the Rapid City Journal. For 20 to 30 minutes each week, we'll take you inside the program with Hardrockers head coach Charlie Flohr. Coach, how's it going this week?
It's going great, Alex. How about yourself?
Doing good. Exciting week here in town, and it was a good weekend for your football program on Saturday as well. You guys improved to 2-2 overall, 1-1 in the RMAC, with a 42-7 win over New Mexico Highlands in the other Las Vegas. How did it feel to see everything kind of click for you guys on both sides of the ball last weekend?
I was really proud of our team and how we responded from the Colorado Mesa game. Obviously losing on homecoming, kind of leaves a sour taste in our mouth. So from that standpoint, we really challenged our kids that we got to find a way to just take care of ourselves. How are we going to improve in all three phases of the game and, play a complete football game? Obviously traveling down to, New Mexico Highlands to Las Vegas. New Mexico is not an easy trip, but our kids handled things very well. And I was just proud of how they performed and almost played a complete game in that football game. So
it had to be good too to see you guys bounce back on the offensive side after some of the self-inflicted things that you had happen in the Mesa game. How good was it to see Jaden go out and complete 16 of 25 for 166 and a touchdown, and then rush for over 103 more scores?
yeah, it was great to see. We know offensively, that turnovers are going to hurt you, and it ultimately did in that football game against Mesa. Having four in those football games, it doesn't matter who you're playing, you're not going to win that football game. So, again, just really challenged our kids, both mentally and physically, that we got to find a way to take care of the football. And, we were able to do that. We played a clean game on offense and didn't turn the ball over, and we're able to make some explosive plays against a very good defense.
How much does it help you guys offensively with what you're trying to do when you're able to establish the line of scrimmage early in a game and get multiple guys involved in the run game as well?
Yeah, that's one thing we've really hung our hat on. We feel we've got a lot of great experience back on the offensive line, between Connor Smith and Grant Smith, Trevor Griffin. Those kids have put a lot of time and effort in, and we've continued to challenge those guys that they've got to continue to be, kind of our staple as an offense. Nothing's going to go, as an offense without those guys. So, we challenged them. They've done a lot of great things up front, and then you look at our backfields. We've got a lot of good quality players back there. Guys that have had a lot of time within our offense, and then obviously a couple guys that are new to our offense but have running the ball extremely well. And plus you got the receivers and tight ends blocking downfield, and plus when you got a running quarterback as well, or gives you that option, it's you're able to open some other things up. So again, that's the one thing we're going to always key on first and foremost, is how are we going to be able to run the football against the defense. And we've been able to do that the last couple of games.
How challenging do you think it makes it for opposing defenses to prepare for you guys with all of the weapons that you have in that offensive backfield and the different ways that your team can beat you on offense?
Yeah, that's one thing we look at as an offensive staff is, what are ways that we can get our playmakers the football. And, we feel the flexibility of our offense and being able to move people, everywhere with, putting running backs out as receivers and putting receivers in the backfield and putting them, as running backs, and just doing a lot of different things. And we feel that makes it a little more challenging on defensive coaches to maybe have to be a little bit more vanilla than what they maybe want. And also, potentially, a little bit less pressure, just knowing that, if our quarterback is able to get out and break some contain, he's got the flexibility of running, but, also our running backs have the potential to get out and catch football. So, how are they going to play man coverage against us and different things like that. So, going through our game plans, those are all things that we continue to look at.
Jalen Fry's giving you guys a big boost in the backfield with the things that he's able to do. 70 carries for 367 and 2 touchdowns this year. What have you seen from him and what he kind of brings to that position for you guys?
Yeah, Jalen's done a really good job of obviously fitting in from the football side, but the thing I've really been impressed with is, he's a transfer, comes from Bemidji State, a program that has had some success in the past. The last 2 years they've been able to make it to the playoffs. And, he's really kind of brought that extra energy within, our locker room in general, just not to the offensive side. Again, it's kind of one of those deals where he's been there, done that, knows what it takes to be a playoff caliber team. And, we knew what he could do on the field, but the thing I've really been impressed with is what he's been able to do off the field with his leadership skills and really trying to get our full team rallied around and being the best that they can be.
You've talked about it before, how kind of the pool of guys for you in recruiting at South Dakota Mines is a little bit different than maybe some other schools. How important is it to hit on some transfers like you have been able to do, guys that bring a lot more to the table than just their skill set on the field?
It's been big for our program. We're not a traditional transfer type team. We always want to go out and start with the high schools and make sure we're getting the best talent we can within the five-state area from a high school standpoint and growing and developing those kids. But there have been a few situations where we need to go out and get some transfer kids, and we got to make sure they fit one academically and what we have. We don't have a lot of the same grad programs that a lot of other schools do. We're a little bit more specialized, so it takes a little bit more work from our standpoint to get those guys into our school. But the ones that we have had in our program have made impacts on the field as well as off the field.
One of those guys is Ben Nolan, the Northern State transfer at wide receiver. He's caught 29 passes this year for 375 and 7 touchdowns. He's been a huge weapon for Johansson in the passing game after you lost some really dynamic guys at that spot. How have you kind of seen him step into that role and really be a dynamic weapon that can stretch the field for your offense?
Yeah, Ben was like you mentioned, a transfer student from Northern State. He was actually here last spring, so we were able to get him at semester time last year. So last spring was really big for him, and getting in to learn our offense, spending some quality time with our quarterbacks, and learning our schemes, and doing all the camaraderie and different things that you need to do within that position. A football junkie, comes from a high school that is very good down in Georgia. His dad's a high school football coach, so understands the game very well. And he's a different style receiver than maybe what we had in the past with the Eastman kid as well as Jeremiah Bridges. But he's been a great asset to our program, and we feel he's helped us out kind of with some of that production we did lose last year.
And then your defense had a great game on the road last week. How good was it to see them really have a game that, I mean, it was almost a shutout. You got through about 3.5 quarters before they snuck one in there at the end. But how good was it to see your defense really excel on the field in a game that you guys probably should have excelled in?
Yeah, going back to just the things we needed to fix after the Colorado Mesa game, and we really challenged the defensive guys to, hey, we've got to be a little bit more assignment sound in the things that we're doing. New Mexico Highlands they're a little bit different team than what they've been in the past. They're running a lot more triple option, doing some different things offensively than what they did the year before. And, anytime you're going up against some option teams, you have to be very fundamentally sound, very, have good assignments, trust your assignments, and do your jobs. And, like I said before, as a full football team, we wanted to get back to, just being ourselves, focus on ourselves, doing our jobs and our jobs only. And, our defensive guys really bought into that. And, for 58.5 minutes of football, I was really proud of our guys, and they stepped up. And, obviously you want to shut out in those types of games. And, we've got to get some of our younger kids a little bit, bought into what we're doing. So if we have a situation to shut out a team, how are they going to finish the game out?
How much does it help when you go and issue a challenge to a unit that you have veteran leadership from guys like Hunter Newsom and Casey Knutson on that unit that can respond and rally that group together on defense?
Yeah, you mentioned those two kids from a leadership standpoint. They've done a phenomenal job, not only on the field, but off the field, of accepting the challenge of being both captains on that side of the football. When times get tough, our coaches don't have to step in and say something. It's those two guys on the defensive side. And, they're not afraid to speak up if things do go wrong or need to be fixed. So, both Hunter and Casey have done a really good job from the leadership standpoint of fixing the things that we need to be fixed. We are a little bit younger on the defensive side, maybe not as experienced as what we've been in the past at some positions. But again, their leadership skills have really grown really since we've named them captains. So, excited to see how they continue to lead our defensive side of the football.
Obviously, this week, a big week too for you guys. 138th Black Hills Brawl kicks off at 6 p.m. on Saturday in Spearfish. College football rivalries are special. How excited are you just to be a part of this game again and to go in with a chip on your shoulder, hoping to get the home stake trophy back in Rapid City?
Yeah, it's been a fun and exciting week. Obviously, playing in this football game or coaching in it. It's the 138th time that this football game has been played. A lot of respect. I think first and foremost between the two programs. Even though it is a rivalry game, I think the respect factor is there. We've all played in big football games already this season. Our players know what's at stake. Our coaches know what's at stake. The alumni knows what's at stake. And the biggest thing I keep challenges is our guys is, it's a football game. They're going to put their pads on just like we're going to put our pads on. We know it's going to be, a high intense game. Rivalry games always are. And to me, it's going to be the team that's going to play the cleanest football, guys that are going to go out and execute at a very high level, play, assignment football and let the cards go where they lay. But the big thing is how we're going to prepare for that game. We got to trust the process, what got us through this point last week where we were able to play, and how can we continue to have that same process this week, knowing that the stakes may be a little bit higher, but the process is all the same and how you prepare for that football game.
How have you kind of seen this rivalry evolve as both programs have taken a step forward in recent years and had more success maybe than in the past, or when you guys stepped on campus at your respective programs? How have you kind of seen that game evolve?
I guess from my standpoint, being here since 2020 and Coach Bresky coming in really at the same time, I think I was hired maybe 25, 30 days before he was at that program. So Coach Bresky and I, we've coached against one another a lot, and it's been kind of fun to see. As much of a, like you mentioned, a rivalry it is. It's been fun to see both of our programs continue to have the success that we both want to have. Unfortunately, this Saturday, one team's got to win, one team's got to lose. So from that standpoint, that's the tough thing about competition and in athletics. But our coaches spend a lot of time in the summer, at working camps together. The western side of the state, we've continued to push. There's good football over on this side. I think the West River, maybe have a little bit, kind of a bad taste on. Everybody talks about East River football here in the state of South Dakota, but I feel our program and Coach Bresky's program up there, Black Hills, have really kind of put things on the map that there is football, played over here, and it's a high caliber of football. Both programs are recruiting the region very well, both recruiting the state very well. And, I think you go back and look at, what South Dakota football has been the last 4 years. A lot of people have taken notice, the type of football that's been played in the state of South Dakota as well as here on the western side.
You guys have a lot of crossover on the staffs as well. Some of your assistants have worked with some of his, and obviously you guys have coached against each other at a couple different spots. How does that kind of play into it as well, the familiarity between the two staffs?
It's good. I still talk to a lot of people on the staff, obviously Coach Bresky and I, with meetings and things that we have through the RMAC. And, so if we're out and about at those meetings, we'll sit down, shoot the breeze, just talk about, how the family is, with his two kids and his wife, and, how busy that they are. Their defensive coordinator, Jordan Brown, was actually a graduate assistant for me down at Northwest Missouri State when we were there in Spearfish this past summer. I called him up, hey, I'm going to be in town. You want to come watch my oldest play baseball? And, him and his fiance came up and watched a game and a half of my oldest, Adam, because he watched him grow up for a couple of years. So, that's the fun part about it is yes, it's a rivalry, but, there's more to life than football. And we want to continue to, stay strong with the relationships we built, knowing that if it wasn't for one another, the connections we had, it wouldn't be for where we're at currently. So, that's the great part about this rivalry is, it's a 60-minute rivalry. Our guys are going to compete as hard as we can. We're going to coach as hard as we can against one another. And at the end of the day, it's still all about friendship and relationships and keeping those strong as well.
What have you seen from Black Hills State on tape so far? Obviously, they have a veteran offensive backfield and receiving core and a pretty stingy defense. What have you kind of seen from them as you've kind of broken down this matchup?
Sorry, get my lights back on here. I think that I think the one thing that I've really been impressed with them is they've continued to get better every single week. You start from week one up until this point. In all three phases of the game, they've continued to get bigger and better this season. which is obviously something that, as a coach, you want to try and do is, not take steps back and, start with them offensively. They're doing a great job of moving the ball up and down the field. They've got their playmakers, at receiver, at tight end, and, obviously in the backfield there. But I think their quarterback plays really probably set them a little bit, higher above what everybody, expected from them the last couple of years. That's probably been the one position that maybe has hurt them a little bit as a football team. But, the Clarkson kid's done a phenomenal job of coming in and leading their offense. He can make plays with his feet as well as with his arms, which makes him a little bit more challenging to defend. And then you look at the defensive side of the football, and, they've got, I think 7 or 8 of their returning guys starting from last year to this year. They brought in a few more key pieces to that and added more depth within their program. So, that's what's going to make it tough and challenging is, they're nothing flashy, and that's just kind of, the makeup of who they are and their, who their head coach is. Coach Bresky, he's the type of guy that, you see from him what you see with their guys on film. They're tough, they're physical, they're gritty, and you see exactly that out of all 3 faces of their football team and their program. So, that's why we know it's going to be a tough physical football game. Our kids are going to have to show up and play a complete game, not take a single play off, and we're going to have to be ready to go for a full 60 minutes.
What have you kind of seen in terms of attitude and feel from your locker room this week in practice and gearing up for the big game?
We talked a little bit about that. It is a big week, but every week is a big week, and our kids like I mentioned before, our kids know that it's rivalry week. We've got a lot of things going on campus, with some production stuff and different things. So, it's been fun for our kids to experience some of those things that they may not have ever had the opportunity to do that. But again, we've got to focus on doing our job, trust the process all week long of, again, you got to show up, you got to watch film, you got to take care of your bodies. You've got to go to class, you've got to watch film. And, again, there's a process to how we've got to get prepared and get ready for the big game. And, if our kids are ready to go at 6 p.m., the results are going to happen after that. So, what does the process look like from our first team meeting Monday at 5 p.m. to, when we go kick the ball off at 6 p.m. up in Spearfish?
How have you kind of prepared your guys for the environment that they're going to walk into on Saturday? Because I know some places in the conference, aren't like Mines or BH where people show up, or Shadron, and people show up and get geared up for the games. Have you kind of prepared your squad to walk into a hostile environment?
Yeah, a lot of the typical things. We're playing music at practice and, talking about that stuff, doing some nonverbal communication type things, on the offense and defensive side, just to make sure our kids are ready to go. Make sure we're spending a lot of time in position meetings, again, understanding signals and different things like that. That way, if, you do have to do some nonverbal stuff, you're able to do that. And, we were there 2 years ago. It was, kind of a crappy day, but the environment was really good. And, we know, with this Saturday night, 6 p.m. right now, the weather looks outstanding. And we know they're going to have a great crowd. And, we know people from Rapid City are going to travel up there to Spearfish as well as our alumni base. And, we're hoping to have just as many people as they do. But, a great opportunity for our kids. Not a lot of kids at small college football are going to get the opportunity to play in such a high-profile rivalry game, with obviously a lot of things at stake, and we've got to embrace the moment. Our kids aren't going to get this opportunity to do that after they graduate. So make sure we're doing everything we can to prepare them both mentally and physically for the game, and watch our kids go out and compete, which will be fun to watch.
What's it going to take for you guys to go on the road and take that home stake trophy back to Rapid City?
It's going to take a complete game in all 3 phases. Offense, defense, special teams. We got to make sure we're on key with all of our assignments. Doing our job, trusting our teammates. They're very explosive on offense, so we've got to find a way to minimize their explosive plays. We've got to create explosive plays, like you mentioned before. They're very stingy on defense, so we got to take what they're giving us. If they're giving us kind of the dink and dunk, run game stuff, then we've got to take it. If they're giving us some explosive plays where we can throw the ball downfield, we've got to capitalize on those opportunities. We've got to take care of the football, first and foremost. Last year in this game, I think we were -3 or -4 in the turnover margin, which, ultimately probably lost us that football game. So, a lot of the same key things that we talk about every single week, we've got to continue to do this week. And, I know they're probably preaching the same thing with their kids. So, we've got to play fundamentally sound football. We've got to take care of the football, eliminate their explosives, and, compete for a full 60 minutes.
Well, Coach, I'm looking forward to seeing you up in Spearfish on Saturday. It should be a fun time, and I'll talk to you after the game.
Sounds great, Alex. Thanks for your time and coverage of our program.
Appreciate it, Coach. And everybody, you can continue to follow along with the Rapid City Journal for the most complete coverage of South Dakota Mines athletics. And we'll see you again next week on the South Dakota Mines Football Show with head coach Charlie Flohr.